So good afternoon, everyone. Day 4, 2 p.m. and you're all here with, I'm glad to see the presence, the room. My name is Ayan Datta. I'm from Tata Consultancy Services. I head the cloud solutions, and I'm privileged to introduce two of our eminent speakers today afternoon. Shubhu, our account director for United Airlines, and Sean, managing director, UCREW modernization. I am not going to take much time. It's just that I will hand it over to Shubhu to introduce the program. This is where we wanted to highlight in next 1 hour how the partnership, a three-way partnership of TCS, United, and AWS came together to display a real business modernization. Right? We always talk about technology modernization. You will see that how a business is impacted, a process is reimagined, and with the help of technology. And three, the customer, the technology provider, and a service provider, hand in hand, came together to make that happen. Right? With further ado, I'll just ask Subbu to introduce the program.
Thank you, Ayan. Good afternoon, everyone. So my name is Subramanian Kusubu. So I'm the account director for United Airlines, part of TCS Travel, Transportation and Hospitality North America unit. So I'm privileged to have Sean Carson here to talk about some of the work we did in UCREW, a little bit more deeper on some of the challenges, some of the best things we did, and how we went through this whole journey, and how it has helped United to deliver business value to their end customers. Right? TCS and United go a very long way. With over 20 years of togetherness, we have worked together in multiple transformation programs, delivering business value to customers. The strength of our partnership always relied on our ability to leverage domain expertise, business knowledge, contextual knowledge, innovation, and the ability to do all the things right at first, actually. Right? Those are the key elements which has actually driven us to partner and deliver value to the to United and to their business as well. Right? With that, I would go a little bit more on the crew side of the world, where TCS and United has been working together for almost last 10 years. Especially in the last 5 years, there has been an aggressive transformation approach that we have adopted together, along with the help of AWS, to see how we can better deliver business value to the end customer. With that, we took a lot of efforts and steps towards adopting latest and greatest technology, including some of the GenAI aspects as well, and also looked at industry best transformation approaches to transform some of the elements of UCREW and deliver value to the end business. Right? So with this, I have the privilege of letting Sean speak further, a little bit more deep diving on some of the work we did. Here you go, Sean.
Thank you. I think I'm good. Oh, sorry. Thank you, Subbu. Thank you, Ayan. I am Sean Carson. I am one of the managing directors in the digital technology division at United Airlines. I have had the privilege of working in the travel and hospitality industry for roughly 30 years or so, 25 of those at United. An industry that has gone through significant changes over that time period. We've been a big part of it. United's strategies and goals have been innovation and evolution, and certainly has changed the way that it tackles industry problems. This program, I think, is a good example of the type of resiliency and innovation that we've been encouraged to incorporate into our daily jobs as we move forward and transform the industry together. I see a few industry colleagues out there, so hopefully some of the things that we covered today will resonate with some of you, but I'm happy to be here and share some of the story with you guys today. Today we'll talk about a journey that we have been on. We'll talk a little bit about United and its background, where we are at, and where we are at as an overall company. The challenges of crew operations, that's the centerpiece for today's discussion, and the way that we have met and treated those challenges as an opportunity to overcome, and the approach that we've taken, as well as the partnership that was needed in order to execute on those changes. And then we'll talk a little bit about where we're headed. And if we have a little bit of time, we'll leave a little bit of time for some questions at the end. First, a little bit about United. United is the world's largest airline by available seat miles. That is just one of many measures for how airlines measure themselves. It is not the only one, but in this measure, United is currently leading the industry, we are proud to say. This year, we hit a pretty important milestone. We were able to eclipse operating more than 1,000 aircraft. That is definitely a company first for us, and it's certainly a statistic that we're proud of. We service 380 destinations worldwide. That is domestic and international. We have 7 domestic hubs in the US, and at least one, you could argue 2 international hubs. We have more than 5,000 daily departures. That is a milestone that has been growing and is continuing to grow. It's a measure of our growth trajectory. We flew nearly 175 million customers this year. That is a big number, and certainly something that we are tracking and certainly proud of. Over 100,000 employees. I think we just eclipsed 110,000 this year, as a matter of fact. That is a number that grows, flows and ebbs, but it typically hovers around that. A very large company. Inside that company, we have more than 18,000 pilots and 28,000 flight attendants. And this story is about them and the teams that support those organizations. Crew operations services those 2 primary work groups. So let's talk a little bit about what crew operations is. Our pilots and our flight attendants both have collective bargaining agreements with United Airlines that govern their work rules. And typically the way that their flight schedules are organized, they will bid based off of their seniority and other work rules against their flight schedule. And then that flight schedule is awarded on a monthly basis based off of those work rules. That's applied to them, becomes part of their strategy, and is executed by it. All goes well, they fly that schedule, and then we move on to the next month and the process cycles over again. But every month there's some kind of disruption, an unplanned disruption, and we have to adjust to the schedule. Typically, this can be on a day-to-day basis because of maybe a maintenance activity where we have to pull an aircraft out of the schedule and adjust things and make adjustments to your flight schedule in order to still accommodate passengers on or close to your flight schedule. If you've ever had a flight where your flight adjusted by 15 minutes, typically that was maybe the driver behind all of that. But with 7 domestic hubs, and most of the hubs in the US are in weather-prone locations, operational disruption is not uncommon. And so what happens then is if we have to cancel or reschedule a flight in order to accommodate around a hurricane or a huge snowstorm in the northeast, we have to perform an irregular operations activity. That means that because of work rules associated with the crew, that monthly flight schedule gets disrupted, and those flights become what we call open time flights, or part of a vast puzzle that needs to be solved. With 7 hubs in a complex interconnected series of network and all of those passengers to accommodate, it's a pretty complex puzzle to solve. And there is a group, there are 2 groups at United that work on this puzzle every day. They are called crew scheduling. One is for the pilot side, the flight ops team, and one for the flight attendants, the in-flight. They all have different and independent work rules, which means their teams need to understand those rules and be able to solve that puzzle. It takes about 1.5 years in the current structure to hire a new employee into this crew scheduling team and get them to a point where they are adept at being able to solve this puzzle in one of those IRROPS circumstances. That creates a challenge, and it means that it is an area ripe for solutioning and technology tools, and that is where we come into play. So crew ops is subject to several challenges. Now, the industry has been around for quite a while, and some of our technology is quite aged. Some of that technology is famously aged, and that means that what we have right now, the primary system that we had been using historically in order to manage our crew environment was a legacy mainframe application. Now, mainframe applications are very solid and structured, but they can be constrained. What that means is that as the ecosystem around that environment evolves and changes, making adjustments to our mainframe environment become more and more complicated. And that can limit what we can do around things like innovative changes, around adopting automation standards and things like that. The industry, particularly the crew side, is subject to regulatory disclosures. Safety is something all domestic airlines, all airlines worldwide take extremely serious. It's an area where we often and famously indicate we do not compete. We share information and strategies around safety, all airlines do. And a big part of that is disclosing regulatory changes and making sure that we are connected. In particular in the US, that means disclosing data points to the FAA and aligning with some of the work rule strategies so that they are clear that we're operating under their guidelines. Our legacy systems, especially some of our mainframe environments, means that the resources available that know how to operate that environment are not as readily available as they used to. Some of the aging technologies mean that we finding resources, people that can manage those activities are fewer and farther between to find. And the resources themselves and the tooling themselves, as we grow, the system is quite stable, but as we want to integrate into the broader path of the ecosystem, the available resources to be able to handle that become challenged. We are subject to operational reliability issues. It is not just weather events, industry challenges, let's just say rub points that are part of our, integrated into our network strategy, aging airports and staffing issues that are kind of beyond our control. And then our utilization for crew itself. We are in the middle of a very large growth trajectory, which we'll talk a little bit about later on in the presentation. But it means that we're hiring significantly and we need available staff in order to be able to handle a growing network. So being able to optimize our network and make sure that we're taking advantage of the resources that we have in an optimized way is a big challenge for us. When things go wrong, disruption becomes a significant problem, and managing through that and solving that puzzle is a keystone of what it is that we do. And as you might imagine, when we build our data structure, we build a little bit at a time, and the opportunity to become siloed becomes significant. Certainly as we moved into a much more analytics-focused age, bringing all that data together into a centralized place has become a significant priority, and breaking down some of those 4-decade-long bad habits is a big challenge. Never let a challenge go to waste. So United took a look at this environment, and many years ago, about 8 or 9 years ago, started to undertake a transformation journey to take a look at that environment and try to adjust and evolve that environment as we went forward. What you see here are just some of the core tenets that we leveraged in order to try to set sail and set some targets and strategies. First and foremost, building a system that helps improve operational reliability was one of the foremost pillars of what it is that we wanted to undertake as we thought about transforming the technology platform. Things like getting proactive with our crew scheduling teams in order to be able to anticipate and position crew where they need to be, anticipating issues and schedule adjustments where possible. Became a big part of what it is that we wanted to try to have the technology help enable. So what if scenario building, for example, was a big part of our platforming demands. Scheduler empowerment means taking the information and presenting it to the scheduler so that they have the tools and means to be able to operate efficiently. Creating a lot of decision support tools and making those easy to consume. Especially trying to breach that 18-month learning curve for new hires in order to make the tools a lot more intuitive. One of the drawbacks of a mainframe environment, once you learn it, it's a really powerful tool, but it involves using legacy green screen commands, things like that, and it means that you really need to operate within that modality. Ensuring that we are compliant with all of our contract rules and the evolution of those contract rules. Let's say every 4 to 6 years, we go through a new contract renewal with each of the labor unions that we work with that govern the flight attendants and the pilot groups. That means that rules change. In fact, we just recently finished an agreement with the pilot union about a year and a half ago or so, which means we're on the eve of making more adjustments to them. But coming off the heels of COVID, there were significant adjustments that were related to schedule enhancements as pilots wanted to shift their mindset away from compensation being their primary focus and starting to balance out work-life balance. That was a key change that happened, and that had a direct impact on some of the things that we needed to adjust and be flexible on in our environment. The employee experience is a big part of our focus. Legacy green screens are reliable, but not super great when it comes to work optimization, and so our crew scheduling team had a lot to say about the way that we tooled things out in order to make their jobs easier and more efficient. And then, above all, making sure that we had a strategy to handle a reduction in overall disruption. From a crew scheduling perspective, that means avoiding what we call secondary cancellations. A flight will cancel because of a weather event, but if we can't recrew the flight that got displaced, we can cause a secondary cancellation as a result of that, and avoiding those is paramount to the strategy behind this environment. Our approach effectively required a grounds-up approach to the entire environment. Our platform itself, our mainframe environment, monolithic, handled everything in an independent way. And so an opportunity to really break through that paradigm and think through things differently was, I think, at the forefront of what we undertook. At the beginning, and at the primary element of that was rethinking the platform itself. Instead of having a single monolithic platform, instead breaking that model out so that we could take the different elements of what make up crew operations, pay structure, the scheduling elements, things that are handing off data to downstream consumers, or elements that are consuming data from upstream, into compartmentalized subsections, so that if one area of the environment went down or was challenged because of latency or some other maybe unexpected data problem, it did not bring the entire environment down. The other opportunity here is to take a look at our legality rules. So this is a key part of the way our environment operates. Today in our mainframe-based environment, or I should say yesterday in our mainframe-based environment, those rules were embedded as one more element of the COBOL logic that was driving the way that mainframe environment was built, which means changing those rules is complex. So if we shift from a 5-hour shift opportunity to a 5.25-hour shift opportunity, it meant going in and hard coding in COBOL that change. Instead, shifting into a centralized, queryable legalities engine became a key part of our, a central part of our architecture standard. And then channeling the way that we think through the data structure itself became a big part of our approach. Shifting our entire environment into microservices instead of funneling everything through single integrated work queues. Really about trying to accelerate and speed the nature of the way the environment itself operates. Centering an environment around automation and then building trust in that automation. Those are, I would characterize that as a people and a process change in addition to technology. It's not just about building tools that allow automation, but we need to ensure that the people that are using those tools are relying on that automation and can support it. Especially when we're talking about things as personal as an individual crew member's schedule that will influence the most personal data point of all for them, which is their pay. And most important of all, United is in the middle of a massive growth cycle, a program that we call United Next. That is a program that involved purchasing and growing the fleet exponentially. Might be a little bit optimistic to indicate a 100% capacity increase, but that is our target and what we are shooting for in order to truly grow the airline into something unprecedented. And so that means having a system that can support a 100% increase. We have to make sure that the environment that we build is future-proof for that and can handle the intake for all of the different crew members that are coming in. But not just that, the ecosystem around the environment is also evolving and changing. The tools that other groups are using, including gathering crew information to be able to make strategic decision, those tools were evolving as well. And so we needed an environment that could align with those types of changes so that we could continually provide greater and greater data elements into those environments. Our centralized legality strategy, where the query and response strategy was a big part of that plan and is part of the execution of that plan. as a result, we ended up building a platform. And again, we started on the on-prem side. So this journey goes back about 8 or 9 years or so before United really got deep into, I'd say, pivoting into a cloud strategy. The architecture underpinnings, I think, were initiated many years back. Interactive channels for transactions and monitoring that different work groups can use in order to be able to oversee, and then introduce observability objectives. We were thinking about that even as we were starting the on-prem architecture itself. We started to shift into a multi-domain integration strategy. So that meant instead of having a single monolithic application, breaking things up into sub-applications. That sounds inefficient, but the way crew operations work, we don't need to have everything inside a single application. We began to kind of challenge those mores a little bit and build bespoke tools that were designed to be a little bit more customized for specific applications. Crew scheduling needs are different than what the pay team needs in order to be able to evaluate and audit the pay cycle, which is also on a monthly cycle. The validation engine and establishing that, and then building the ability to be able to evolve and adjust that validation engine. Our legality rules themselves became a key part of our program. We didn't just centralize that, we had to build a platform that could handle millions of transactions. That's the area that I think will experience the most growth, especially over the next 5 to 10 years as we continue to leverage and evolve this platform. More and more tools, both internal and external, are going to query and respond to challenge and understand what-if scenarios based off of whether or not a crew member could or should be able to fly on a given route. We can use that internally for our own IRROPS-related management in order to try to think through different scenarios, or external tools to say, hey, I want to maybe make a decision to cancel this flight, but I don't know what that's going to do to the crew team. So now we can, with this structure, begin to enhance those applications, provide system of record insights around what might happen if they were to make decision A instead of decision B. And then we can begin to work really interoperably with the other teams that are making joint decisions around the way that we operate. And then that is the starting point. Now, so the cloud journey became a big part of the way that we executed on this. About 4 to 5 years ago or so, United started to really pivot into centralizing its long-term resiliency plan, not just for crew technology, but for many of our Tier 1 and Tier 0 applications. Today, I believe something like 80 critical applications are on the AWS platform, a significant transformation journey that we have been on. AWS has become a big partner of ours, as has TCS, in order to help us execute on at least the crew scheduling plan. Once we started to select the cloud migration plan as part of our journey, all kinds of long-term tooling and strategies started to become available to us to potentially leverage and move forward. And a big part of the transformation journey involves evaluating those platform opportunities, picking the right one for us, the one that meets our specific servicing needs, and moving us forward. As a result, our opportunity for increased compute power has grown exponentially. The way, as we're transforming, we can make a much more structured approach to the way that we catalog and manage data, certainly operating with that inside our cloud environment and matching that up against some of the other partner systems that have also moved into that same platform. And standardizing and modernizing the way that we think about the platform, promote changes, and support those changes long term. Today, we have a much more resilient application as a result of these short-term decisions. The environment itself becomes a state-of-the-art crew scheduling application that we are quite proud of. It is something that was built internally through blood, sweat, toil, and tears, and is a competitive advantage for United now. That's, I'd say, how we tend to think of this. Crew disruption can be a very visible disruption, and it also can snowball and can create lots of problems and becomes very visible to customers. So being able to proudly articulate and leverage these tools in order to be able to reduce risk in the space is significantly important and becomes significantly important to continue to evolve for United. Central to all of that is our alerting engine. Those are using the legality rules in order to be able to draw attention and provide decision support mechanisms for our schedulers. That has now become a centerpiece of the way that our schedulers think of the application. Instead of simply trying to look at the next flight to resolve, they are able to prioritize and evaluate alerts based off of priority and what needs to be addressed now versus first in, first out. We have our centralized rules engine that is now platformed and ready for us to start building automation strategies on top of. That is our current plan and the current slate of work that we are undertaking for our business partners as we think about their long-term roadmaps. Cloud also offers a couple of different options, but probably the most important one is its auto-scaling capability. We can scale on-prem, and we can certainly scale even on our mainframe-based environments, but it's more costly. You sort of have to build a lot of extra space anticipating ebbs and flows, especially around irregular operations when data flows tend to start to spike and the processing needs increase. One of the main advantages of cloud is to be able to allow the platform itself to kind of evolve with those data demands and then pull back so that we're being a little bit more optimal once we have a blue skies day. That is definitely in place and is a big part of an advantage that we are now able to take advantage of. And I think when we were on our mainframe environment, we were able to enjoy platform stability, but that's not the same thing as redundancy and resiliency. As we grow the network, we stress that network, and that means that the systems that are kind of surrounding our environment, our mainframe may be stable, but the data feeding into it, or the consuming systems that are pulling data out of it may not be quite as stable. And so by being able to shift to a more data-focused resiliency strategy, we can do things like park data in a holding space and buffer it so that we can create a much more efficient recovery strategy for downstream consumers if something goes wrong with the way they're taking data into their environment. If something happens upstream, we can be in a position where we can hold processing in a much more structured fashion now and be able to integrate and wait for the upstream data to catch up so that we don't lose or have to throw away records and then do a bunch of manual work and spend a day and a half trying to recover from a 1 hour system outage, those types of things. We are taking advantage of the automated disaster recovery structure that comes along with cloud. And the more applications that we move into the AWS cloud, the more we can take advantage of that, of automated recovery. New, we didn't just re-platform. This was not a lift and shift strategy. We worked with our partners in order to adjust and try to meet their needs as we evolved. We completely revolutionized the front-end screens. And today we have 4 independent CREW applications that are all managed by different teams that all integrate and combine with each other. All of those monolithic independent queues that all went through a single independent queue have been broken down into more than 380 microservices now. That is probably the single most advantageous change that we made in order to try to maintain resiliency. One minor queue goes down, it won't clog the pipeline and prevent critical data from flowing into our environment now. And it'll buy us time, especially in a situation where we can monitor and see a microservice is struggling because of some unexpected data condition to be able to recover and quickly respond. Overall, the effort reduction for transactions has diminished significantly. This is something our resources have specifically come to appreciate. We are growing, and so our manpower demands have not lessened, but the work that they do and the ease with which they operate is much easier now that they have decision support tools that are a lot more focused and put together. And on the data front, we have been able to centralize everything and also take advantage of a different change that United has been putting in place to centralize all of our data into a centralized data hub. That is not necessarily an only part of the program that we have built, But by restructuring the data itself and putting it into a position where it could be integrated into a centralized data hub strategy, we've been able to enable a much bigger enterprise change and then be able to plug in an entire analytics industry into trying to take advantage of that data in order to be able to create decision support tools that go even beyond our system's capabilities. And then last and certainly not least, our training costs have gone down. Not to mention our attrition rates. So the system that we have today is more nimble, it's easier to use, it's more intuitive, and more aligned, I think, with the types of tools that people are expecting when they come to work at a modern company. Tools that allow mouse clicks instead of memorizing mainframe commands, things like that. And that has significantly reduced and created new opportunities for training. It still takes a while to become an expert crew scheduler. You still need to learn the puzzle, and you need to understand the network and the terminology and the impacts, the fleet types, and all of the rules that come along with it. But we can now compartmentalize roles and make it easier so that maybe your initial role when you join the team is a less impactful role, so that you can learn the ropes and not create disruption. And that team now has those teams have much more flexibility in managing new hires. So at the end of the day, what we have is, I think, an environment that takes into account people, process, and technology changes all at once. Going forward, so we have a few, we're nowhere near done. This is a transformative journey. Transformation is a journey, not a destination. Probably don't need to tell you that. That stands for itself. When we stop innovating, we start stagnating. So these are just a few of the thoughts that we have as we move forward, and I can talk a little bit about what some of the strategies are to undertake these activities. But one thing we can do, we can transform our environment now that we have a resilient application that can integrate with changes in a more efficient way, and the external applications that we're operating. We can start to think about transforming the platform into an intelligent workspace. So what that means is, today, the way our operating center works, there's a central ops group that manages the network schedule. They themselves have to make decisions based off of what crew are available, the maintenance schedule, and then the ground handling operations that might be available, all of which are mobilized resources that make up important parts of our fleet management and the way that we manage schedule changes. By transforming this space, we can feed information into a centralized tooling strategy in a much more efficient manner and begin to get predictive analytics and other tools embedded into those spaces so that all of those teams can begin to work together in a much more efficient manner. That is probably the most exciting part of what we've done here by enabling and sort of breaking the shackles of our old mainframe environment. We can now start thinking about taking this data and connecting it to some of the AI tools that we have in order to be able to proceed. We will talk a little bit more about the TCS partnership shortly, but one of the areas that we've been looking at with them, TCS has a tool called Mastercraft. This is an embedded platform that they have inside their environment that is used to drive a variety of AI-related solutions. It's got an embedded large language model and can also be connected to a variety of applications. We've started with some proof of concept evaluations, and what we would like to do with those tools is to take a look at some of the challenges that we have in this space and see if we can plug in and embed a integrated AI tool into the space so that we can start to have the AI environment start making decisions for us. And then also use those tools in order to evaluate the requirements that we have in order to facilitate making some of those adjustments as we go forward. Those types of possibilities were not possible 5 years ago when we were talking about leveraging a centralized environment on a legacy platform. Observability and evaluation and reliability is a big part of United's current focus and will continue to be a part of that focus. Establishing concepts like creating a digital twin. Now, this is an interesting concept, I think. It's not just about platform transformation or creating tools that technology resources can use in order to be able to evaluate the health of the application itself and maybe proactively get in front of preventing issues, although this type of thing will help with that. It also is, I think, a transformative change for the schedulers themselves, the people that are using the platform. They will eventually shift away from transactional-based processing, thinking about how do I repair this flight. We'll move in the direction of letting the tool take care of that instead. And they will instead shift more towards a holistic view. And so a digital twin will allow our resources to take a broad look at the spectrum, think about how Crew fits into a broader ecosystem, and then begin to partner with their business teams in order to be able to make strategic decisions. There are certain things that are always going to be unanticipated changes that are going to come in. Some route will close because of a political circumstance or an unprecedented change that was just not anticipated related to something like a COVID event or a CrowdStrike event. We're going to need humans in the loop in order to be able to aggregate those decision trees into an automated solution. And if we can start to think differently and bring our tools up a level and have the people think differently about the way that they're thinking about their ecosystem, they can be a lot more effective and then respond much more quickly and effectively against those types of events that occur. And then probably one of the most exciting changes, big adjustment, I think, on the analytics space, but thinking through agentic AI. Agentic AI is, I think, a buzzword thrown around. It's a aspirational goal. But if you think about what crew scheduling is and what its operation is, it's a series of complex decisions. It's not one giant decision. It's a sub-series of repeatable but integrated tasks that require a little bit more than just predictive decision tree making, but need to aggregate in information from other sources. It is an ideal platform for building an agentic AI, but it is a complicated execution. And so that is where we're turning attention next. We're trying to think about innovative ways to think through identifying commonality points, look for automation potential, and execute on trying to build a strategy where we can have the machine learning take care of the decision tree for us rather than rely on human capital. If we can do that, we really free ourselves, I think, from the confines of transaction-based processing, shift people into a different mindset where they're trying to just make that system work better by injecting more and more insight into the decisions that the machines themselves are making. So that is where we will take the space next, especially now that the core platforming is in place. And as AI tooling evolves and partners like AWS and TCS continue to evolve their platforms, United will continue to take advantage of the expertise that comes from those spaces. And that takes me a little bit to the partnership model. So I want to talk a little bit about this. United is an expert in airline management, right? You could argue we're maybe not just one company, but a host of different companies. We're a digital technology company. We are a catering services organization. We're a maintenance company. We are a airline. We are a crew management organization. All of these things require disparate and distributed expertise. I think somebody told me this the other day. It takes something like 30,000 applications to get a passenger from the point where they purchase a ticket to the part where they arrive at their destination and take their bag off of the baggage carousel. That is a lot of technology standing between you and your destination. It is a really complicated puzzle to solve, and it's a really exciting industry to be a part of. How do we do it? We do not do it alone. And so what we have found, and I think that this program is a really good example of that, we've been able to take advantage of some really strong partners. We see the implementation in particular of this program as an example of the success that can come when you take a core domain-based group that has its own capability set in United, leverage a powerhouse delivery partner like TCS that leverages an on and offshore flexible delivery model, and then marry that up against a best-in-class platform that is also replete with its own expertise that we can take advantage of for innovative changes in platforming tools like AWS. All three of those groups are, I think, paramount to the success of being able to truly take an industry platform that goes back maybe 4 decades and transform it. This pattern you are seeing repeated elsewhere at United. We have other mainframe applications. We have other challenges to solve, and simply leaning in on this model has yielded really great results and enabled for us to accelerate our cloud migration journey. It doesn't come for free. There is a cost. For partnership, you get out of a partnership what you put into it. And I think really thinking through how we work with these partners and engage with them is what's paid dividends. We have to change our own strategies for how we think about our technology, break through our own silos, and challenge our own notions in order to be able to accept insights. What I think I really like about this model, if we have built a model where we try to make sure that everybody has a voice, all three parties, all three partners, and by creating an inclusive environment where everybody has a chance to bring in their insight, the opportunity and chance to have somebody who maybe can bring us all forward becomes much greater. And that is, I think, a pattern that has emerged, especially as we reached challenges. TCS and their expertise became an important partner of ours as we worked through critical deadlines and addressing unexpected challenges as business partners' needs shifted over time. And we certainly leveraged AWS and not just their domain experience through their technical account managers that are part of our day-to-day operations, but their own professional services organization to be able to tool up incremental expertise. United also has a structured series of enterprise teams that has been growing, and in particular, I'd say in the last couple of years with some recent leadership adjustments, has created a significant platform for domain experience. So we can take that expertise from AWS, learn from it, and then capitalize on it and distribute it, and repeat those patterns for other teams that are maybe implementing similar technologies. At the end of the day, what we have is a platform that yields significantly increased resiliency and has paved the way for future opportunities. Real pleasure to be with you today. We do have a little bit of time for some questions. I think I'm told we can meet over here. If you would like to probe a little bit deeper on anything that we've done today, we will make ourselves available and stay connected on the fringes here so that we can talk to you a little bit more about the solution that we've put together. Hope you're enjoying the conference, and I look forward to seeing you in future years where we maybe evolve the platform to the next layer of delivery. Thank you for your time.